Good morning, Per. How are you doing today? How is life? How was the weekend?
Good morning, Maciek. Thank you. Life is great. Autumn is coming, and that means that skiing season is coming too.
I already booked my skiing tickets, everything. Like I booked I'm going to Italy again, to Madonna di Campiglio again, and this time, unfortunately, only for a week because my teenage daughters rebelled and they want to stay home more, and I couldn't do a 2 weeks. So I'm gonna go for a week, but I already booked everything: the hotel, the flight tickets, the car. The only thing that is outstanding is I need to ship my skis over there to the hotel, but that's in February, so I still have time.
Beautiful. I dropped off my daughter to ski camp in Zermatt, Switzerland yesterday, and
Oh,
it'll be 10 days of skiing for her and her colleagues. So that's fun.
so you're starting earlier than me. I'm jealous now.
To be honest, skiing season never ends.
That is true. That is true. When I was living in Munich, I remember skiing from September all the way until June. I would finish in June, and I would just go, from Munich to Hintertux or Stubaital. It's maybe 2 hours drive, so it's just enough to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, go there, ski for the week, ski for the one day, and then go back. So I was every second or third week skiing. Not
Sounds like a
possible from
beautiful life.
Warsaw. Yes, still love the mountains. Still love the mountains. Today I wanted to continue the discussion with you on the recommendations that you and I agree on, which is that VARs and resellers should be seriously thinking about the transition to the MSP model.
Absolutely. And I was keynoting in Stockholm 2 days ago, and I reminded myself of Jay McBain's figures saying that if you are an MSP, your business will grow double compared to the speed of the IT sector in general. And the IT sector grows double compared to the economy in general. So 4 times growth is pretty nice. And most MSPs are doing tremendously well. They are increasing revenue and they are increasing profit margins. So
Yeah, and
here's
and
the
if
way
you
to go.
remember last time that we spoke about this, it also translates into evaluation of your company. So I will keep on reminding people that the recurring revenue, the kind of a SLA-driven concept, is the one that is looking. I mean, the investors are looking for it. They are happy to kind of inject dollars into your organization, either through partner ownership and to give you cash basically for further growth, or if you are at this stage of your life that you would like to potentially push the pass the button to somebody else, there will be investors. If you have a very strong MSP business, there will be investors, private equity investors, that will be coming your way asking for the keys to your kingdom. I would very much encourage everybody to rethink the transition, or put the transition on the table for your strategic discussions. But Per, when we discuss many times with the resellers and MSPs, or especially with the resellers, and I have more experience with the resellers because most of the HPE partners were reselling the servers, the storage. That's how they grew up, and that's how they build their business. I don't think that people appreciate the cultural shift that they need to go through to move from the reseller concept, or what I call a SKU mentality, to the SLA mentality.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the same goes if you are a VAR that is, or an SI that is focusing on selling hours. Moving from selling hours, moving from selling products like pieces you can hold in your hand is hard for some. And for some, it is easier, but it takes time and it is a shift of culture that
It
probably
is a
needs to take time.
But it's good. It's always good to start a little bit of the definition. When I say SKU mentality, what do we really understand by a SKU mentality? Okay, and it's not. It doesn't mean to be a derogative. It's just a fact. And the SKU mentality, the SKU approach, was for many years a good way of doing business, and it's still bringing money. I mean, I know a lot of resellers that are making several $1 million just reselling their products. Just reselling their products on a good margin. It's just that those margins, as we many times said, are going to shrink and cause a bit of a challenge in the future. So I prepared some definitions, some maybe I make it a little bit bigger, some overview of what we understand as a SKU mentality. And I will start with this kind of a definition. It is product centric. It will your mindset, and believe me, I catch people on this many times in the conversation. Your mindset is thinking of individual items, services, projects that can be packaged together, labeled, and sold. It is like it's treating almost every offer that you have as a SKU unit on inventory, fixed price. And I have a lot of discussions with the partners, and they tell me no, I'm really looking for the service, and then they start describing how they treat the service, and many times this treatment is not, it's a SKU mentality applied to services.
And it is transactional. So you sell a piece of computer to someone else, and it's hard to justify that you are adding tremendously more value to it. So that means that your margin will be pretty slim because it reflects the value that you have added. We call them value-added resellers, but the value add is often something that is questionable.
It's true, and even within many services organization, I certainly have seen that in the services organization, also with the vendors, there can be a SKU mentality applied to the services. I mean, if you think about good old days, compact care pack was a service that was packaged as a SKU and sold as a SKU, as an attach to another SKU, which was a server or notebook or what name you. So in the good old days of compact, when I was selling notebooks, I remember the service was completely productized. Was a service, but it was very transactional. It was very much focused on the short-term revenue, on the situation when you close the business, go from one to another. Very reactive approach. We would wait until the refresh cycle, or when the service is kind of getting to an end, when the care pack is being finished, to go and offer another care pack extension. So it's a very reactive approach. And obviously, all the discussions about selling services or selling notebooks or selling servers were extremely focused on the margin on the individual product, individual transaction, individual bundle, sometimes individual customer, but not very often. Only for the largest customers, we would kind of look at the margin-based situation for the customer itself.
And it's also less about control, because it is most likely that someone else has defined what a SKU is about. So there is little wiggle room and there is little room for innovation. And that means that there's little room for margin. And I like your statement about like being a transactional, and you phone them after 3 years and you ask about extending the care pack. And that is kind of not the way you become a strategic advisor.
Yes, you are focused on the price, you're focused on the cost, and the difference between the two. And anything that you can do to lower your cost by negotiating a better discount with a vendor, or increase the price by negotiating a higher price with a customer, is going to determine your success, which is not really what the success of a customer is at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And you touched about valuations. Well, if you're not adding much value, then it is hard for someone to see the glory of paying a premium when they are buying your company.
That is very much true. So what is the, I don't want to say opposite, but what is the alternative? Because I don't want to necessarily say it's an opposition of a SKU versus SLA, because many companies successfully do one or the other or both. But what is the alternative approach? The alternative
So,
approach will be the SLA mentality, something that is way more service-centric. It will focus not on the margin for each and every transaction or individual transactions, but it will focus on the outcome that is delivered to the customers. The SLA, or service level agreements, they define the expectations, the responsibilities, the standards for the service to be delivered. It's a different approach. It's not a single transaction approach. It's more of a ongoing long-term collaboration handshake, I would say, with a commitment to quality, to certain, standard, upholding a certain standards and delivering certain objectives or expectations.
so exactly, and that is what I realized many years ago, that when you sell a piece of hardware, well, that is a transaction that ends. When you sell something that is SLA driven, it is recurring revenue. It will never end, or most likely it might end sometime, but it is meant to be forever. And that's so much nicer. So that means that you can focus your energy not on finding the next customer doing a transaction with, but instead making sure that the ones that you are serving them pretty well, so that they see that they should keep on going and keep on recommending you to others. It is so much easier, so much more
Yeah,
fun, and you sleep so much
and
better at night.
and in this kind of an SLA mentality approach, instead of looking at each and every transaction, you kind of look at the process. You look at the opportunities to either streamline, standardize, automate, or improve your delivery capabilities without reducing the outcome for the customer. So without reducing the standard of the outcome that you are the kind of a, you still need to meet the expectations, but your gain and the margin increase will come from an ongoing attention to how you deliver the services. And as you deliver services cheaper, more effectively, more optimize your resources and capabilities, you can then invest in the new options and then go back to the customer and expand and increase your position with the customer, sell additional services, additional options, etc., etc. So it becomes a very proactive approach in terms of serving and constantly looking for new ways to satisfy your customer.
Yeah, and if you keep on improving the service, adding new features or adding better capabilities, that means that your customer will be more and more happy, and it will be harder for the competition to get you. So the journey never ends, and innovation never ends in that journey. That is an important approach when you are SLA driven.
Exactly. So let's recap, Per, because I have one more slide that is just kind of putting those concepts aside, side by side. Okay. So SKU mentality versus SLA mentality. What are the key differences? So again, the focus in the SKU mentality is on selling individual products, services, individual customers, individual transactions, right? SLA mentality will be looking for delivering continuous outcome-based, recurring, evergreen. We keep on using those kind of words in exchange with each other. That is going to be your focus on the continuous, kind of collaboration with the customer.
And it's night and day. It's really a big difference, and it is a mindset difference and a culture difference, and we're going to talk more about how that is. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
this is in a nutshell where you want to go.
Yes. So you want to be more on the right-hand side than on the kind of a middle section. And again, I'm going to point you to the conversation that Per and I had about 2 weeks ago. There is a bit of a survey. There's a little survey that we've done back there in our previous video, where you can basically assess where your company is on the SLA readiness, let's say. And if you are more on the SKU or reseller side, you will have to start with the SKU mentality and try to change that. Not completely eradicate that. Again, there is a transition that is going to be ahead of you, and you need to put some change management in place to drive this change from the mentality, from the culture perspective. And I guess we have a couple of ideas. What are those principles of change, Per, right?
Yes, yes, indeed. And it's a journey, and it is not something that will happen overnight. But as we see it, here are the principles of a change. You need to have a clear vision and purpose, and it needs to start from the leadership. It needs to start from the leadership, but if it is only the leadership that sees this vision, well, it will not scale. So you need, as a leader, influence, motivate, and over time change culture. And you need to give support to that change. And best thing is always to have your employees with you instead of against you. So keep them involved. Run workshops, discuss what you want to change, how you're going to change it. And that will drive change. Create ambassadors, sponsors internally. That will drive the change. And be crystal clear about where you want to go. Don't be shy. Be crystal clear so that current employees and future employees know where you're heading.
We have intentionally structured the slide in this way because when you will see, when you will look at the slide, it is basically going from the top down. So the change will have to start at the top with if you are the owner of the company, you need to start changing your mindset. You need to have this clear vision and purpose. You need to look in the mirror and say, how much do I have a SKU mentality versus the SLA mentality? When the new opportunity comes, how do I approach it? Do I approach it by trying to build an ongoing relationship with the customer, or am I trying to put a couple of things together, put a margin on it and resell? I mean, this is and it's good to kind of maybe check with someone you trust to test your readiness or your kind of a SKU mentality versus the SLA mentality. Where are you on this kind of a continuum? Okay, so you need to start with a clear vision and purpose from the top, and you need to then build through your leadership and sponsorship a buy-in from your organization. It's not going to start from the bottoms up. It's going to always start with the owner or leader or CEO or sales leadership about how this kind of a change has to go. Then you go further down and you start involving your employees. But when I say involving employees, I want to be very, very specific about it. It's not telling them what to do. It's not going to be about the micromanagement. It's not going to be about just telling, hey, you need to change your mental approach. No, it is going to be by the discussions and involvement of key employees of your organization, maybe finding some change engines that will help you to drive the entire organization. And that's going to be extremely hard because sometimes this change will involve, a reduction in a salary or kind of a overtime. There's this kind of this curve of change where you have, shock, denial, anger, and then you go to the valley of death. So there will be this kind of a moment when it's going to be not so great, and then it will get better. If you get your employees on board, it's going to be much easier for you to drive with them the changes in the culture that you need to make to change your mentality from SKU to SLA.
Absolutely. And the end game should be full transition to the new business model, but it will happen gradually. So like every quarter, it will be a little bit more shift towards where you want to be, but it will not happen overnight. But it is important to understand that it's probably in the longer term impossible to do both be short-sighted doing low margin transactions and being forward thinking doing annual revenue, recurring revenue deals.
It's just not going to be viable. I mean, I always think about a very, very good friend of mine who is now also working in the IT industry. But the two of us, we both finished the musical school. And when we have finished the musical school, I went all into the IT world, and I started to work for IT companies. Effectively, ended up with Compaq. Very quickly moved and started to work with Compaq. And I remember having a conversation with him when he also started to move towards the IT industry from being a musician. And every now and then, working for an IT company, he would take a day off and go and play, at some kind of a wedding or a reception or some kind of a, not a very artistic, but kind of a making money on the side. And I've asked him, why are you doing it? And he said, like, Magic, I constantly do that because I like playing, first of all, and secondly, it's an additional money for me. Okay. And I said, well, as quickly as you will start getting way more money from every hour that you spend working in the IT world, you will just simply not have enough time. It's going to be a waste of time for you to go and still play at those weddings and kind of a parties and everything else. And you can do it in your free time on Saturdays and Sundays, but you won't take a day off to spend on an activity like that. It's just not going to be the money that you are going to make on everyday working in IT. It's going to be much bigger than the kind of a shoddy wedding somewhere outside of the city. Okay. And very quickly he agreed with me. He said, like, after a couple of months, he said, like, I no longer do that because I just cannot afford to drop it. The same story will happen here. At the end of the day, every transaction, every offer that you are going to make, every customer that you are going to switch to an SLA-driven approach, is going to be way more profitable for you, way more recurring for you. There's way more stickiness. So you wouldn't like to go back with this customer to a resale situation when you are going to scramble every refresh cycle.
And I call it distractions. It is important to get rid of distractions so you can focus on what is your main purpose.
So start your change and start it from the mentality change or a culture change, because how you're gonna define your culture, how you're gonna drive the change and improve the culture of your organization is going to effectively impact the success of your entire company. Culture in your organization, this SLA mentality and a strong culture in your organization with the leadership skills and the involvement of employees and the clear communication is going to significantly improve your organization as a whole.
Yeah, because if you believe that this is better for your customers, that this is adding true value to them, then that is a mission for you and your company. And sitting down together at a campfire, singing Kumbaya, creates togetherness, and togetherness makes you a team, and a team will always perform so much better than people running around like cats.
Yes, I had an interaction with one company recently when we've made some significant changes to the way the leadership interacts with the employees, and we've seen a significant boost in the energy, in the collaboration, and this owner was trying to make a change in the organization. And once he started to involve employees, and create a culture of change and a culture that is more skewed toward the new version of his organization, it was visible that the employees were happier and more engaged and more interested in the success of the company, which obviously translates to the success with the customers, because as we say here, customers can smell a bad culture from a long distance, and they don't want to be associated with companies that are kind of don't have a very strong and positive culture, right?
Absolutely. And I think that Microsoft is a great example of how to make that change. They were selling SKUs and they were phoning after 3 years, hey, do you want to buy the next version of Office? And then Satya Nadella stepped up to the leadership position as CEO and made that change. It started slowly, and we can now see the fruits when Microsoft are primarily depending on recurring revenue streams. And we all know that the Microsoft share has gone phenomenally well, from like below 100, steadily below 100, to now above 400. And everyone that has been part of that journey has seen the impact of this big change and the way the culture changed first, and then products came afterwards. But it starts with the culture.
Okay, Per, to conclude, the transition from SKU mentality to SLA, it's going to be at the heart of the cultural shift. And we spoke about, the need to make this change and to shift from SKU to SLA, which will effectively help you to change from a VAR to an MSP. You will no longer be a product-focused transactional. You will start looking at your value-driven approach, and it's not going to be a short-term exercise. It will take some time to make those changes, but it also means an investment in a very long-term strategic success, which means more customers, stickier customers, more profitable customer relationships, and sustainable business growth. And as we many times said, Per, higher valuation of your organization on the market.
Yes, sir. Night and day when it comes to that. And also the soft values. You will sleep so much better at night, and your employees will find so much better job security. So it is better to know how the next quarter looks like before the quarter has actually started than realize that your numbers are wrong. And with recurring revenue, you just keep adding. So much more fun.
Thanks, Per, for joining me today, and we'll speak in 2 weeks on the next step in the changes that the organization has to make to transition from the VAR to MSP.
Thank you, Maciek. This was a pleasure, and we do encourage listeners to reach out to us if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if we can help you in any way. Our passion is to help VARs and SIs become successful MSPs.
We help you, but we are also learning then, and then we can share our experiences in those discussions without, as you can see, revealing any particular names, unless you want to join us on one of our live streams, which I certainly encourage everyone to do.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.